Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Stand Alone, where we go from being ordinary to extraordinary. And really, what we're talking about is taking lead in our own lives. And I only want to bring the best of the best to you. And today, as we dive into leadership, I can't think of anyone more amazing than Jon Gordon. So you got to bear with me because we are in the presence of greatness today. An amazing husband, father, keynote speaker. If you can imagine, an author of 26 books, 13 of them bestsellers. That's incredible. Jon, you've worked with teams to get them in the Stanley Cup, the World Series, the Super Bowl, Clemson in the 2 national championships. I mean, this is incredible. So obviously, we're not dealing with luck. We're not dealing with chance. You have a set of prescribed processes that you put in place to deliver results on a consistent basis. And I know that so many of us, myself, everyone in the world, we want more. And I can't think of a better person to speak to today. So first, I want to welcome you to the community of go-getters. And I want to just thank you ahead of time because I know God is in the midst of us. And I'm excited to talk about the things that we are really needing to take our lives to a different level today. So welcome, Jon, and thank you for your time.
Sabrina, great to be with you. And that's very kind of you to say. Really appreciate the introduction. I get to work with a lot of great leaders, so I can't take the credit. I get to work with these great leaders, and I just give them the tools to help them lead in a more powerful way, a more effective way, how to lead their teams, how to create a united and connected team, and really help them perform it at a higher level. So I just get the opportunity to work with a lot of great leaders, and I'm someone who gets to share these principles with them.
Yeah, I love this. And we talk about principles. The word that is a common thread in all of your writings is positivity. And so one of your books that is just a powerhouse, and I believe that's your word for this year, power. And you talk about the power of positive leadership. I would like for you to just uncover what made you seek positivity, because I think a lot of us, when we look at people that are very positive, we think like, my goodness, I could never be like that. Like, that's an extrovert. I don't have that personality. But I love how you uncover how you came to researching positivity. If you could touch on that with our viewers, that would be great, because you aren't naturally a positive person, but you went and you seeked it out.
Yeah, I had to, because I was so negative. It's ironic that this is my life's work, because I'm not naturally a positive person. As you said, I grew up in Long Island, New York, in a Jewish Italian family, a lot of food, a lot of guilt, a lot of wine, a lot of whining. And so my family was negative quite often. And I grew up in this negative environment. They were loving, very loving people, but just a lot of negativity. And I struggled with it along my journey in life. And so much so that when I was 31 years old, I had 2 little kids. I got fired during the dot-com crash. How am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to support my family? Who am I going to be? I'm feeling like a failure. All my dreams left unrealized. Like, I was not going to create anything. I was just going to be a failure for the rest of my life. And so I'm crumbling from the inside out. And I'm blaming my wife for why my life is so bad. And so she had enough. She had enough of my negativity. She said, if you don't change, like, we're over. Like, you need to change. I'm not going to live my life with someone who makes me so miserable. And so it was a huge wake-up call for me. I wanted to be a better husband. I wanted to be a better father. And I knew I needed to change. I didn't really like who I had become, because even though I was negative a lot of times, I also was this Division I athlete who was optimistic, who was always working hard, who had a lot of grit, who wanted to be great, who early on opened up a bar in Buckhead at 24 years old, who had this, eternal hope and belief that I could accomplish something. So I had this eternal belief while also being pessimistic and negative at times. I called myself like a pessimistic optimist. I would be pessimistic, but then I would be eternally hopeful. And then this all happens. And now I know I need to change. And I began this journey of researching all the ways that I could be more positive. This was during the emerging field of positive psychology. So just like beginning, like people are starting to understand the idea of positive psychology, not focusing on your problems, but focusing on your strengths, not focusing on the negative, but feeding the positive. And so every day I start practicing some of these ideas that I'm reading about. I come up with my own, like the thank you walk. Research shows you can't be stressed and thankful at the same time. It's a great tip for everyone. If you're feeling grateful, you won't feel stressed. So I get up every day, and I recommend people do this as well, and you take a walk of gratitude. And while you're walking, you just say what you're thankful for. And the research shows when you're doing this, you're flooding your brain with these positive emotions that uplift you rather than the stress hormones that slowly drain you. And over time will actually kill you if you let these emotions take hold. And so you've got to start programming. You got to start feeding. You got to start rewiring your brain from negative to positive. And doing that each day, the garden of your mind starts to look magnificent, right? Weed the negative, feed the positive. You do it one day, it doesn't do a whole lot. Do it for a week, do it for a month, do it for a year. I've been doing this now for over 18 years, and the garden of my mind looks so much different. I feel so much different. I wake up almost every day now more positive and optimistic, not negative like I was. I dealt with anxiety. I dealt with depression. I had tons of fear. Now I don't live with any of that. I mean, a little bit at times, but mostly feeding the positive on a daily basis. So that was the journey of getting started with this. And then as I started to do these tips and started to do these practices, I started to write about it. I started a weekly positive tip. And then I would send that message out every week. It was like one of the first e-newsletters out there all the way back in 2002. And I'm sending out a weekly positive tip to people. I had 5 subscribers, Sabrina, my mother, my brother, my best friend from college. They were getting that newsletter, whether they liked it or not. But I start sending that out. People start sharing it. Next thing you know, people are reading it, benefiting from it, bringing people to me. I'm getting asked to speak like at different little small events. And that began this journey of doing this work.
Yeah. I love hearing your voice because I hear the New Yorker in you. I spent a few years in New York building a business in Manhattan. I lived in Long Island. I don't know if you're familiar with the
I'm from Long Island. I'm from Smithtown, Suffolk County.
Okay, awesome. Is that North Shore or South Shore?
That is North Shore, not far from Stony Brook, if you know Long Island, not far from Huntington, not far from Port Jefferson. So yeah, I grew up there. And again,
I lived there. Yeah.
Oh, you live there? Oh, that's so cool. I grew up there, and then I got Southernized in Atlanta after college. I moved to Atlanta and spent 7 years in Atlanta before moving to Jacksonville, where I live now in Ponte Vedra Beach, which is technically the South. So
I'm getting beachy vibes from you with a New York accent. And I'm like, where are you right now?
I can go south, but I can also go real. And when I get fired up, the northern accent definitely comes out.
Okay, I love it. I love talking about this because in New York, it's just this energy and this vibe of go, 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 go. And then sometimes you don't take the time to reflect. And, this is what I wanted to talk to you about today, because I was listening to a couple of videos and reading about mental toughness and how you describe it. And it's so beautiful. And what a lot of people are finding themselves in the situation right now of just like, I want to do more. I want to be more purposeful, but they're not spending the time to reflect and hear, what really is their calling, what is really, the message at a higher level. And I love what you said about mental toughness being a spiritual battle. And I don't think I've ever heard it, broken down as well as you've broken it down. And you say that you will never win a spiritual battle with man-made strategies. I think this is so huge. And if you could spend some time on that walk, and you even have a book about the garden, but it was in that moment where you went on that walk where you started to like really figure things out. And then that helped to cultivate, what you had to seek out to get better and become a better leadership. Why is it important for us to just quiet the noise of the world and to like get really in tune with what's happening on a spiritual level so we can toughen up or show that we're more tough on the outside?
Well, I wrote a book called The Energy Bus, and that book put me on the map. A lot of leaders started reading that book. And after that book got out there in a big way, I started to meet all these leaders and work with all these teams. And then from there, I started to see how positive leaders, led, the impact they had, how they transformed their teams and organizations. But it started with themselves first. You have to have a positive mindset. The power of positive leadership is all about feeding yourself in order to feed others. If you don't have it, you can't share it. So every day you need to feed yourself to feed others. You have to have the positive mindset, which is essential to being a positive leader. Being positive doesn't just make you better. It makes everyone around you better. And it's not just a state of mind that makes you feel better. It's a state of action that makes the people around you better. So when you're feeling better, thinking better, you start acting better, and then you want to serve others. You want to build great relationships. So that's the foundation of my work and also of the principles I shared. But a big part of this is the understanding of winning the battle of our mind, because every day there is a battle going on. And I have a new book coming out in June called The One Truth. And I wrote The Garden, which is about the 5 Ds and winning the battle of our mind, which is sort of like the pre-book before this new book, The One Truth. And The Garden talks about winning the battle. And I would say The One Truth is sort of a big picture and understanding of how it all works, the spiritual nature of who we are. Basically, we are soul, we are spirit, we have a temporary body, we have the brain, which is hardware. But how do we make sense of this world? We make sense through energy, through vibrations, through frequencies and wavelengths and spectrums. So if you think about it, like the world we see is really an energetic reality, electrical impulses and signals. And so every day you're making sense of this world by your neurons firing the synapses. And that's literally how you see the world. And every day these thoughts are coming in. And I ask people all the time, do your negative thoughts come from you? And they often say, yeah, they're in my head. But here's the next question. If you believe your thoughts come from you, who would ever choose to have a negative thought? Would you ever choose a negative thought? No. When you're dreaming, having a nightmare, are you choosing those thoughts? No. You would never choose those thoughts to have a nightmare. So thoughts are always coming in, but when you understand the nature of who we are, soul and spirit, and ultimately this energetic body, and everything is spiritual and thoughts are spiritual. You got this brain that's like an energetic structure, right? Your temporary, like sort of a energetic hardware, and it's always downloading the thoughts from the internet cloud of consciousness, and thoughts are always coming in. And so when you think about the body, we're 99.9% made up of atoms. What is an atom made up of, right? We're made up of empty space. So everything in our body literally is empty space. So we're actually light beings. We're more thought than we are actual physical. And that is where we create the reality that we are living, through our thoughts. That is where we lose the battle and win the battle. And once you understand this, because you would never choose a negative thought, you realize that every day it's a battle between thoughts that are trying to sabotage you and separate you and weaken you and divide you, and thoughts that encourage you, that make you stronger, that give you power, that connect you and unite you to God, to others, to yourself. The word anxious, the Greek word of anxious, the root word of that means to divide, to separate. So when you're anxious, you actually feel divided, you feel separated. Negative thoughts separate us. Fear, think about it, separates us. It separates from ourselves, from others, and think about the world. Think about countries that get separated because of fear. Think about our country being separated by fear. Fear divides, whereas love unites. Positive thoughts unite you. They connect you. And so love is the most powerful force in the universe. It's the ultimate uniter. It's the ultimate connector, because love creates connection. When you love someone, you feel connected to them. Well, guess what? There's scripture that says nothing could separate you from the love of God, which means you're always connected to that love. But then we have this force that's always trying to make us feel separate, always trying to divide us with our thoughts. And the more we believe those thoughts, the more we believe the lies that we are separate, we feel more separate. And that's how we begin to lose the battle of our mind, through doubt, distortion, which are negative thoughts, lies, distortions of the truth, discouragement. We don't give up because it's hard. We give up because we get discouraged, distraction, and then division. As I said, the word anxious, the dividing that takes place. But the answer is to overcome those 5 Ds, right? With love, with positivity, with positive thoughts, with thoughts that give us power and strength, with trust. I call it tune, Tune. And this is in the new book. T is trust and truth. U is unite with love, or unite with God. God is love. So unite with God, unite with love, because love helps us overcome fear. Love creates connection. Connection creates clarity. Clarity creates confidence. Confidence creates courage. So the more we have love, we have that connection, clarity, confidence, and courage. And then the N is neutralize the negativity, because every day the negativity is trying to bombard us. Neutralize it. And then E, elevate your thinking. And the more you do this, the more you tune day in and day out, you literally raise the frequency of your mind, of your brain, and of your energy that you're now tuning into. Your brain is literally an antenna, no doubt about it. Every neuron has a transmitter and receiver on your neurons of your brain. It's pretty wild when you really think about it. So every day we're tuning into the frequencies of positive or the negative. And whatever we tune into, that becomes the messages we hear. That becomes the life ultimately that we live and create. That's how we see the world. Are you tuning into the negative voice or the positive voice? Think about that radio dial. When you're tuning that radio dial, literally the messages are always coming, but you only hear the one that you tune into. And sometimes you got that tuning where you hear the 2 stations going back and forth and it's a little static and you're trying to hear one, but then you hear the other. As my good friend Erwin McManus said, you're always tuning into the frequency that you're moving towards. So the goal is to move towards the positive frequency. Start tuning that dial to the positive frequency by tuning in every single day. And literally, the more you do this, you will literally create a healthier antenna, a more healthy brain, a healthy body through your thoughts, through your words, through your actions. And then you will start to create this incredible, amazing life that you are meant to live. Like, you're meant to live with power, not weakness. You're meant to live with love, not fear. So does that answer your question? It's a long answer that describes it all, but I think it really breaks it down in terms of the spiritual battles between good and evil. And really, when you think about it, think about the story of Adam and Eve in the garden. They're in the garden, 2 frequencies, the voice of God and the voice of the serpent. Which one were they listening to? And they listened to the negative voice. They listened to the evil, and that separated and divided them from each other, from themselves, and from God. And it's happening to this day. We're still going through the same thing. Think about the old Cherokee story of the 2 wolves. We have 2 wolves inside of us, the positive and the negative. Which one wins? Because they fight all the time. The one you feed the most. Feed the positive wolf. That's not a biblical story. That's an ancient Indian story, right? The Native American Indian story. So think about that. So you have this Native American story that is very similar to the garden story, 2 frequencies. Think about pop culture. You've got the devil, and then you've got the angel on one side of the shoulder, and they're always talking to each other in these movies. That represents the truth that we all know, that we have a choice between the 2. And there's an evil that wants to divide you and separate you and destroy you. And there is a God that loves you and wants to unite you to himself for you to live the life that he created you to live. It's really that simple. And once you understand oneness and separateness, God leads you to oneness and connection with him. There's an evil trying to create separateness within you. You will understand how this plays out in every aspect of your life. You will start to see it in every aspect. A team that is divided is what? Weak. A team that is united is strong. A marriage that is connected, a marriage that communicates and connects and commits and cares about each other, what happens to that marriage? They get strong. They get powerful. They have a great life as they get older together. What about the one that is divided and separate and fearful and a lack of trust and disconnection and distractions? That marriage actually becomes very divided. So you can see how this plays out in every aspect. And once you understand it, the goal in writing The One Truth, why I wrote this book, comes out in June, is to teach people how to live with this power, how to master their mindset, and ultimately how to heal their soul, because there's a wound inside every person. There's a hole in your soul that truly separates you. And the key is that God wants to make you whole, WHOLE. And once you move towards healing and wholeness, that's when you find and experience the power that God has for you.
Amen. So this is powerful. I mean, that's the beauty of today, where we can get information and everyone needs to rewind and re-listen so it absorbs, because I know I will. One of the things as you're speaking, I always think to myself, when I came into business, I thought, we're going to do this together. I'm going to be able to work with everyone, and we're just going to have an unlimited amount of opportunity. And what I realized in business is what you talk about in your book: culture, 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 standards, 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 standards. So how do I marry these two thoughts of not thinking everyone is for me and for my cause? It doesn't mean that they're bad people, but sometimes there are bad people. So really what I'm asking you, Jon, in your wisdom, is how do I develop the gift of discernment to be able to see if someone is truly with me and is wanting to unify and grow my team, versus someone who's coming as a distraction and is creating division, if that makes sense?
These 5 V's play out in teams all the time. When I shared this with a coach, I work with a lot of sports teams, a lot of corporations, a lot of very successful, amazing leaders and organizations. In-N-Out Burger is a client. I work with the Rams, the Dodgers, the Miami Heat. Just was with the Colorado Rockies, speaking to them. You have to understand that culture is everything. Culture drives talent towards greatness, and positive leaders create great cultures. But you want to create a culture that is a culture of oneness, a culture of unity, a culture of love, a culture of power and strength. So how do you do that? You have to know what you stand for. You have to focus on your values. You have to know that we hire the people that stand for our values, that align with our values. You can have a lot of people that are very different. They can look different. They can be from different cultures, different races, ethnicities. I believe you should have a lot of diversity, but you want people who are of diverse nature, who share the same values and have the same mission and have the same goal of what they want to accomplish, what they want to do. And they're on purpose and they're living with this vision, and they stay positive and they don't get caught up in drama and fighting and complaining and negativity. So you want to find the people that fit your culture, that align with that. So your job is to find the right people that fit your culture. Pat Riley says, you don't have to yell at someone who wants the same things as you do. So
wow, that's good.
Love that. And by the way, hire slow, fire fast. So find the people that fit your culture, that align with you by your values. And I say, once you know what you stand for, every decision you make is easy. And when you know your values, you show your values. Also, everyone has a mission statement today, but the great organizations have people on a mission. So you want to hire people who are on a mission with you, that, again, fit your culture, on a mission, and align. So now you bring these people into the fold, and now you know the mission, you know the values, you're investing in the root every day. The root is your culture, it's your people, it's your relationships, it's your process. You're investing in the root. And the more you do, that gives you a great supply of fruit. See, too many organizations focus on the fruit of the tree. They focus on the numbers and the outcomes and the stock price and the wins and the losses. And they focus so much on that, and they ignore the root, and they don't get the right people in, and they're focused on the results all the time. And then they never win. They never have success. They never realize their potential because they're not investing in the root. The tree dies. They're so focused on the fruit. But if you invest in that root, you'll get a great supply of fruit. So that's the key. Knowing your values, knowing what you stand for, finding people that stand for what you stand for, and also knowing that the culture every day is dynamic. It's not static. So every day you're creating your culture by what you value, believe, think, say, and do. So I'm going to find people who value what we value, who believe what we believe, who say what we say, and do what we need them to do. Clarity leads to focus action. So I'm going to give clarity and then create focus action. And then when we have this united team, the goal is to constantly make sure that we are weeding out the negative and addressing the issues and having difficult conversations, and also aligning off into our vision and purpose, making sure that we're not allowing outside forces and distractions to get in the way, because it will happen often. Even in marriages, you got to constantly communicate. You got to connect. You got to eliminate the energy vampires that are sabotaging your team. So people come onto the team and you're always hiring new people. If you start to see that you have someone that's causing problems, someone that's a vampire, you coach them up. You give them a chance to succeed. If they don't, you got to let them off the bus. It doesn't mean you don't care about them. You can love them and care about them, but they're just not right for your culture, your team, and your organization. See, if you keep them on, it means you don't care about everyone else in your team. You got to care about everybody else who you are leading, because they deserve to come to an environment where they can perform at their highest potential. And if someone is sabotaging that, you got to get them off the bus. So as a leader, you've got to understand how negativity sabotages your team. You got to understand and look out for the signs, for the 5 Ds. You got to start to see how it's happening. And your job every day is, every time there is doubt, you're building trust. Every time there is a distortion, gossip and negativity and rumors, you're having great communication. So that fills the void. Where there's a void in communication, negativity will fill it. So you're always filling that void with positive communication. Anytime there's discouragement, we're setting up and creating encouragement. And I'm making sure that I encourage my team. Truett Cathy said, how do you know if a person needs encouragement? If they're breathing. Everyone needs encouragement. So as a leader, your job is to encourage on a daily basis so discouragement doesn't set in. When you start to see those distractions, you're constantly getting your team to focus on what matters most. We're not going to allow this distraction to keep us from being our best. We're not going to allow this outside noise. We're not going to allow even this maybe new business idea that sounds good to get in the way of what our focus right now. And then finally, when the division sets in, we got to constantly be uniting and find ways to connect. I love team building. So we have all these programs now, Power of Positive Leadership, where we work with the leaders, work with teams and organizations to help them be a more positive, united team. The power of a positive team is what makes great teams great. So we'll work with the team and the leader to help them become a stronger team. We have ways to have difficult conversations. We help leaders and their teams have difficult conversations to help them deal with the issues they have. You got to deal with the elephant in the room. Nick Nurse, the former coach of actually he's not the former. When he won the NBA championship, it was his first year. He's now the coach of the Toronto Raptors, and he put an elephant on his desk. And it was a reminder they were going to deal with the elephant in the room. And so you got to make sure you're dealing with the elephant in the room. There's a million tips that I could share. We don't have time for them all, but we do it in our leadership training. We have leadership training events around the country for positive leadership. And we have team training events public around the country. People come to those, and then they also bring it back to their organizations. And we're doing a ton of that. And it's only growing because these ideas work. When you understand oneness and separateness, you'll start to see how everything you do as a leader must be to create oneness and deal with the separateness that comes about.
I love this. I think it's so incredibly important for people to just apply this individually to their lives also, because we live in a society today where people are like, I want what they have. I want to look like that. And you talk about it with the roots and the fruits. And I love that. And if people can take that on an individual basis, that's
well, Sabrina, do this with your family. Like if you have kids, even if you're married, even if you're dating, start to have weekly team meetings. If it's just you and your boyfriend or girlfriend, weekly team meetings where you start to talk about your vision. What are your goals? What do you want to create together? Start talking about that. Get aligned as a team. What is our one word for the year? I always encourage teams to pick their word for the year. One word that gives you meaning and mission, passion and purpose. Wrote a book called One Word. And it's an incredible book in terms of helping teams get focused and each person get focused. If you have kids, weekly family meetings are essential. We did that with our kids when they were young. And it's one of the most important things that we did as they get older. We kept doing it. And it's why we have a bond to this day. So family meetings are essential. And then each day starting to realize, how is negativity affecting you? How is positivity affecting you? How can you develop a more positive mindset on a daily basis and really paying attention to this? Everybody's creating their own culture of their life. You're creating their own culture of your relationship. My wife and I wrote a book called Relationship Grit. And the grit stands for God, resolve, invest, together. Guess what? You're creating a culture in your relationship by how you bring God into your relationship, how you resolve through challenges to stick together, how you invest in each other, and how you do it together. Do you know that 99% of couples that pray together stay together? Gallup did some research. 99%. 1% get divorced versus couples that go to church together. 50% get divorced versus the same number as people who don't go to church, which is very interesting. Like going to church is really not the answer in terms of staying together. Prayer is the answer. Bringing God, the creator of the universe, into your relationship, because God is a relationship, not a religion.
Yeah, and you're really communicating with God, like the three of you together.
You're inviting, you're inviting the spirit, right?
Yes.
We are spirit. Again, remember, we're spirit, soul with a temporary body. So think about that. We're spirit. God is spirit. When our spirit unites with God's spirit, that is where we find true power. His spirit lives in us, right? When we accept Jesus, the Holy Spirit becomes the spirit that now lives in us. So think about that. Your family, right? Your wife, you now are both inviting God's spirit to be united with your spirit. Now you get this triple braided cord that is now woven together around you and your spouse. And now instead of 2 cords, which is very breakable, you now become 3 cords, which becomes unbreakable. That's the key. Now, say you're not a religious person. John, I don't know about all that. Every addiction program believes in a higher power. Why is that? Because your will isn't strong enough. You can't do it on your own. You need a higher power to give you strength. Same thing in your relationship. You and your relationship need a higher power to give your relationship strength to help you stay strong through the tough times.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's, when we are, even though I talk about standalone, it has nothing to do with being alone. It's about, being strong as an individual, but it always is about community. It's about that saying, it takes a village to raise a child, and, seeking power from above and within. I know I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't have those beliefs and principles.
Yep.
And I love that you're courageous enough to talk about this. I think, when I'm thinking about your journey and you're in that hard time, and I think about myself whenever I'm in hard times, I always sit down and say, God, what are you trying to teach me right now? What are you wanting for me to see that I was blind to or neglecting in the past? And you said it beautifully when you talked about what a crisis is. And John, I think that people are, I never knew what a midlife crisis was until I got older and I saw people. I'm like, wait, are you having a midlife crisis right now? You said that it will reveal who you are, what you believe, and what you value. I think that's huge. Can you talk about that? Because a lot of us lose our faith when we go through bad times, but those are actually moments where you can draw or tap into the spiritual realm on a deeper level and take yourself to a higher plane. If you can touch on the purpose of a crisis, I would love to hear that from you.
Yeah, I've been talking about this a lot recently. God allows us to have a worthy opponent. He allows us to be tested. Think about your journey in life. Sabrina, did you have a rival in high school or a rival in the course of your life?
A rival in terms of,
yeah. Was there just a rival? You had someone that just pushed your buttons that was always testing you.
a rival.
Rival.
Yes. I thought you meant, did I arrive somewhere?
No, a rival.
I've had a few rivals in my life.
Right. We all have rivals. I remember the guys I had to compete against in sports. They were my rivals.
Yeah.
Those rivals made me stronger.
Yeah.
They made me better. You have Djokovic and Nadal and Federer. They were all rivals battling each other, worthy opponents that made each other better. I just spoke to the Colorado Rockies. I talked about the batters. That pitcher is your worthy opponent. They are sharpening you. They're refining you. Even if you fail against them, how can I come back better and stronger because of it? Every time you face adversity, a setback and challenge, it is a worthy opponent that is testing you and refining you. That failure is not meant to refine you. I'm sorry, it's not meant to define you. It's meant to refine you. It's not meant to define you. It's meant to refine you to be who you're meant to be. So everything we face on our journey, the crisis as well, God allows us to be tested. Will you succumb? Will you submit? Will you give up? Or will you push forward? Will you surrender, not submit, but surrender to God? Mm-hmm. Will you look to him for guidance, or will you look towards the lies that makes you want to quit? Will you choose doubt, or will you choose trust and faith? Will you allow fear to sabotage you? Will you focus on the love that gives you the power to move forward? In every adversity, every crisis, every obstacle, you are giving that choice. So you face the worthy opponents in your life to make you stronger, make you better, make you wiser, make you who you're meant to become. And that's the journey for all of us. And once you see it that way, the next time you face something, you'll realize it's just a worthy opponent that I have to face on my journey.
Yeah, this is so powerful for people to just internalize it, very differently. It really, in your book, you talk about pessimists don't change the world. Critics write words, but they don't write the
Right? The
future.
future.
What could you speak about, and you had this in your family. You talked about your father where he's like, what's good about today? But he was a loving guy. Sometimes we misinterpret people's energy because they're going through something in that moment. But how do we deal with people's negative energy when we are working on cultivating a positive energy for ourselves?
Gandhi said, I will not let anyone walk through my mind with their dirty feet. So first and foremost, we don't allow anyone to walk through our mind with their dirty feet. We are more positive than the negativity that we face. I remember telling my dad, I want to be a writer and speaker, Dad. I found my calling. His response, what the heck you want to do that for? That's a load of junk. That won't amount to anything. He used other words, my dad. He had the gift of discouragement. Well, several years later, I got on the Today Show. The show was called Get Energized Today. I coached several people on enhancing their energy and their optimism for their work. And as I walked out of the studio, who called me on the phone but my dad? He's like, your mother, I just saw you on TV. You really made a difference. We're so proud of you. We always knew you could do it. He did not even remember being negative. And I learned first and foremost that you have to be more positive than the negativity that you face. And that not everyone's going to share your vision. They're not going to share your belief. They're not going to share your optimism. But as you're working on your positivity, you have to continue to just rise above anyone's negativity and move forward in a positive way. You have to realize they have no power over you because you create from the inside out. The power's on the inside. We don't create outside in, we create from the inside out. So it's just noise. Remember, it's an energetic reality. Djokovic, when he plays a tennis match, if they're booing him, he imagines that they're cheering him on and he hears cheers. You can literally transform the signals and the sounds and the meaning coming your way. We could do that in every moment of our life. And so you're positive. You don't allow their negativity to affect you. You don't let them bring you down. You lift them up. And here's the key. I think this is big. People always say, get rid of negative people in your life. No time for negative people. But what happens if they need your guidance? What happens if there's someone actually you can help and mentor and support and help become more positive? If everyone ignores the negative people, who's going to help the people who are really struggling and going through something and are negative for a reason? I'll never forget, we had a woman we taught this technique to where she met with one of her employees. Employee was really negative, total energy vampire. And the goal was to write them a letter, meet with them, and read them the letter of appreciation and what you appreciate about this employee. Find all the good qualities. And so she did. She thought it was going to be a very short meeting. It turned out to be a 2-hour meeting. She found out this employee was dealing with all these issues and a lot of negativity and some problems at home. And finally, this manager listened to the employee, heard all that was going on. They bonded over it. She became a very big support for this employee, transformed the relationship. The employee became a star employee. And it's just a great example. When you take time to truly listen and empathize, you can transform someone. We don't say get rid of energy vampires right away in our training and in our model and our approach. It's first and foremost, give them a chance to get on the bus, mentor them, coach them, help them, develop a relationship with them. Are you someone they want to listen to? Do they believe that you have their best interest at heart? Because they're going to be more likely to listen to you if they believe you have their best interest. If you're someone who they don't feel has their best interest, they're not listening to you. So you first have to establish the relationship. And if you haven't done that, that's on you. Maybe they're an energy vampire because they don't have great leadership. So you got to figure out, is their problem, or is it because of something I've done as a leader? All right, now I'm doing everything as a leader. I'm investing in them. I'm supporting them. I'm coaching them. If they're still really negative, they're still sabotaging the team, they're still hurting others, then you got to let them off the bus at that point, right? You don't stay around and allow someone to hurt you on a daily basis. You then have to let them off the bus. But you do everything first and foremost to try to get them on the bus. And if you have a friend that's hurting or you meet a stranger that's going through a tough time, first assume positive intent. Assume that they're struggling. Then try to be someone who helps them. And then from that moment on, you'll be able to discern whether you should walk away or whether you're someone who's supposed to guide and help them on their journey.
Yeah, you're an expert at this, so I think just introducing you, I have a global audience, but I think the world needs to hear your message in terms of just getting people to know that this is work. It's not going to come overnight. And I'm sure you wake up some days and you're just like, I just want to be negative. And you're like, nope, I can't be negative because real negative things are happening. And I think I commend you on, dedicating your life to this because it has the power to move and change the world one individual at a time. Just to wrap everything up, one of the words that I heard you talk about, which I really, really subscribe to, in today's world, people are just so about discipline. And you're like, oh, you're not disciplined, or I'm more disciplined. But I love that you throw it back and you talk about it's about devotion. And I think, when I look at my team, I don't even look at engage their level of discipline. I want them to be devoted. I want them to have commitment. If you could speak on that, because ultimately you can grow any skill in the world if you are a devoted individual. And I find this quality, Jon, really lacking in people today because we're a microwave society where people are like, I started a career. Why am I not a millionaire? It's like, it doesn't work like that.
I love that. A lot of times we focus on the discipline, which is the appearance. It's the outcome instead of the devotion, which is the root. If you invest in the root, devotion, you will get discipline. Focus on discipline without devotion, and you're going to get burnout, and people will eventually tune you out. And so you need devotion first that will then drive the discipline. What is devotion? There's a oneness. There is power. There is a love that drives you. I always talk about Pavarotti. People ask him about his incredible craft and the amazing discipline that he had for his craft. And he said, everyone thinks it's discipline. He said, it's not discipline, it's devotion. He was so devoted to his craft that it drove his discipline. And it's what made him so great. And when you're devoted to something, discipline is actually a lot easier. When you're not devoted to it, discipline is really hard. You always feel like you're struggling, swimming upstream, climbing uphill. But when you're devoted, things flow a lot more. You still have hard days, you still have tough days, but guess what? You don't mind because you're devoted to what you're doing and what you're building. I'm telling you, people don't have discipline because they don't have devotion. They don't have discipline because they feel separate. They look lazy, but it's because they're not loving what they do. And they don't feel a greater purpose in doing it. So we got to get people to feel that oneness and connection to the purpose, to the mission, find out what they love to do what they love. And if you don't love it, find something else because you'll never be great at it. You won't love everything about your job. I don't love traveling and having to fly. But you got to find out what it is you truly love about it and let that drive you every day. And that's going to lead to the discipline. So I woke up this morning at 6 a.m. and I had the discipline to get a bunch of stuff done because I'm devoted to what I do. Again, people are going to get burned out if they don't have devotion because discipline will only last so long because it's driven by self, right? The self, not a greater purpose, not a greater connection. So you got to tap into the oneness and the greater power and connection to have true devotion, true love, true purpose that gives sustained energy rather than self-discipline that will only take you so far.
I love this. I'm so excited for your book. It comes out in June, The One Truth. What is the one truth?
The one truth is what we're talking about here. It's the power behind everything. It's the one thing that explains everything. Like what we're talking about here, you'll hear it all the time. Oh, you got to be disciplined and people are afraid of success. No one's afraid of success. No one is afraid of having great success. We all want great success. Got to get deeper. What are we really afraid of? Not being enough, being found out, imposter syndrome, not being loved and failing. no one is afraid of success. We all want to be successful and feel great we're successful. So we got to uncover the things that people are saying that are all these misrepresentations that are so surface level. And we got to get deeper and share the truth behind what drives everything. And once you know that, you truly become a Jedi in this world when you see how it all works. So I'm teaching people how to be a Jedi, understand the power behind it all and underneath it all. And once you do, you will never look at the same world the same way again. But more importantly, you're going to be a powerful force in this world. And it's why I wrote it. I could have kept it to myself, but I know that I'm meant to share it to help other people live with that power.
Well, this is amazing, and you need to be shared with the world. So, Jon, where can we find you if we want to learn more? We're definitely going to get your book. And, all 20, is this number 27?
Actually, no, I have 27 now, 14 bestsellers. So the last one became a bestseller just recently.
Congratulations. And that's no small feat. So it's incredible. Well, and I just want to say thank you for not stopping, because you could have written one book and been like, okay, I'm accomplished, but you kept on going. And I know it takes a lot. And I just want to commend you for that. Where can people find you?
It does take a lot, but I'm so thankful for all the readers. I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it wasn't for the readers who read my books. I'm thankful for all the people that have allowed me to coach them and ask me for advice along the way. I've always been someone who gives advice to people. People reach out on social media all the time with a question. I respond. My mission was always one person at a time. And it still is. It's getting harder, but I still try to respond to everyone who has a challenge, everyone who has an issue. Not, oh, if they want to write a book, teach me how to write a book. No, what are you going through in your life that you really need help? Or you have a son that's struggling or a daughter that's struggling. Literally talked to a friend's son the other day and a friend's daughter the other day to try to help them through the challenge they were going through. So having those conversations along the way just ultimately made me a better teacher. So thanks to everyone who's supported my work along the way. To find out about the One Truth, when it's coming out, sign up for my newsletter, jongordon.com, Jon Gordon.com. And that'll be coming out in June. But also with that newsletter, I write a weekly positive tip every single week. So I'm always trying to add value to people's lives in doing that. So Twitter, Instagram, at Jon Gordon 11 is my Twitter, Instagram, at Jon Gordon 11. You can start following me there. And if you do, you'll see I'm always posting video clips and tips and ideas and suggestions and strategies to just try to provide a lot of value for people. And we have a 7-step positive plan as well on my website. It's free. And you can just go there, jongordon.com, download that plan, give you literally 7 things to do, one a day for 7 days to start feeding the positive. Doesn't cost a dime, and you can start doing that immediately. But I'm really excited about the One Truth. And I've sold 5 million books so far in my life, thank God. And my goal is the One Truth will sell that many by itself, because I believe it's the message the world needs to have to ultimately transform the world.
Well, I look forward in helping you get to that 5 million. I think that's very, very powerful. When I was rereading some of your books, the greatest thing about doing these podcasts is I get to speak to some of the people who you have helped me along in my journey. In 2007, I bought one of your books and I was like rereading it. And I'm like, this is so amazing that I'm getting a chance to meet you and talk to you today. So God bless you. God bless your family. And thank you so much for the work that you continue to do.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thanks for what you're doing. And thanks for being a positive contributor in the world. And I love, by the way, standing alone. It's important because that means we're standing boldness, right? We know that we were able to stand alone because of the people that loved us along the way. And you're willing to sometimes stand alone for a great idea, a great mission where other people don't believe in it. You got to be willing to stand for what you're standing for. And sometimes it is lonely at the top, but we know that no one creates success alone, but the people who love us along the way and believe in us allow us to stand alone in our toughest moments.
I love that. Thank you so much, Jon.
All right. God bless.